What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're actually going to be working on the GC8 Rally car, so I'm not going to run my mouth a whole bunch about it. I promised that I would start working on it right away, and that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to be pulling the engine today and pretty much getting the whole front end ready to start the tube chassis. So that's probably going to include chopping up the front end, removing the entire front end, fenders, bumpers, everything off the car. So we're just going to get started right away, and yeah, I'll stop delaying it any longer. I haven't done this in a while, but I want to see how fast I can do it. It's been a while. I know I can pull the trans in about an hour and a half. I know it's definitely easier to pull an engine when you have an engine hoist. So like if you're doing a clutch, I kind of want to see like a comparison. So I'm going to set a timer, kind of plan it out in my head, and get to work. Probably not going to talk. I'm just going to do it uninterrupted, knock it out real quick. Not too bad. Well, that was probably the quickest and the cleanest that I've ever pulled this engine out of the car. Most of the time, it takes me a long time because I forget a bunch of stuff, or I end up just dumping all the fluids on the ground and I end up with a huge mess of coolant, power steering fluid. I still do not know a good way to get the power steering fluid like to not spill everywhere. Once I cracked those lines loose, as you probably saw, it was pretty bad. But it only took about an hour and 25 minutes to pull the engine, get it on the stand. The stand took me a really long time to set up. Probably should have done that a little bit better before instead of trusting the Harbor Freight jack or engine hoist as it's creeping down. So that was a little sketchy, but I cleaned up the garage. It's kind of nice. I'm trying to keep the positive like workflow and keep like the garage clean as I work rather than just like letting stuff build up and then trying to clean it up like when I'm done for the day, because then I don't. And then I come back the next day and everything just starts building up, and then I lose a bunch of tools and parts and everything like that. So trying to continue that just takes a little bit longer. But now the engine's out, we can actually start stripping all this stuff. So we got to pull pretty much everything out that's connected to the front. We got to get the light bar off, headlights, bumper, fenders, grill, you name it. It's got to come out. All the ground wires, everything like that. We got the oil cooler. Everything in there is super ghetto. And you could see like kind of how I mounted it in there. It's definitely not the best job ever. So that's going to be awesome to just have all of this stuff redone and actually like set up nicely. It'll look decent. Hopefully it'll stay cleaner. I do have a system or an idea of how I want to keep it cleaner with like wheel wells and stuff like that. So hopefully when we get to it, it should be a lot better. But I'm gonna stop rambling and we're going to start stripping the whole front end. So now that we have all of this stuff off, you can really see how bad of a condition this core support's in. So it's not even connected at the bottom. As you can see, that is completely rusted out, not even connected right there. These were my terrible mounts that were holding my oil cooler. Super sketch. One of the radiator mounts just crumpled right off, like it just tore as I pulled off the harness. So one of them wasn't even connected. The other one was pretty much just flopping around anyway. So, I mean, I knew that it was barely mounted. That's why I had a bunch of zip ties holding on my radiator. And then we also get rid of that thing, which is awesome. It weighs like 45 pounds, super heavy. No, I'm not going to go with like a lightweight bumper bracket. I am going to make an actual bash bar. That way we have some sort of protection in like a low speed crash. It doesn't really come into play in like a high speed crash because it's all just going to crumple in. But it's still going to provide some protection for the engine because obviously you don't want to just like send a small tree into your engine in a small crash or something like that. So definitely going to have a substantial bash bar up there to mount the bumper too. Now I'm going to continue. Got to get rid of all that stuff in that corner. Stuff off that strut tower. Pull off these hood pins, and that's pretty much it. We can start figuring out exactly where we're going to start chopping. I'm going to try to chop it up as cleanly as possible in like as less amount of pieces as possible. That way it's really easy to get measurements off later on when I get to that point of making all those tubes and I want to like come back to reference this sheet metal. Now you can see what I was talking about when I was saying that the harness runs through the wheel well, and it's super sketchy because if anything happens to your wheel well liner, like it did on my passenger side during the last rally, this is just going to be completely exposed and it's literally controlling everything on the car. So it's not worth it to leave that running through your wheel well, or at least protect it a little bit better than it is currently. And this is my hot. Definitely don't recommend doing that in the future. If you have any idea of building a car like this, don't do that. Don't be like me. But yeah, we got this cut out so that I can pull it out without having to disconnect everything from the fuse box. Eventually all that will come out, and I want to try routing all of this through the firewall. I'm going to end up probably making a hole just for those looms of wire so that they can actually pass through, go to the fuse box in there, and then we don't have to worry about it running through the wheel well. All right, now I'm actually ready to start cutting. I am going to mark exactly where I want to cut, probably with some masking tape or something, Sharpie, I don't know. I already figured out exactly where I want to cut. It's pretty much just going to be right in front of the strut towers on both sides, just right through it. And then on the frame rail, I'm going to cut it right after where the subframe mounts up. That way I don't have to worry about getting that position perfectly as it is now so that the subframe lines up perfectly in there. Like I said, I want to make this as clean as possible so that it doesn't come off in a whole bunch of like little pieces. That way it's easier to get measurements later on down the road in case I have any sort of mishaps or questions on like what the design I need to make. I'm definitely going to at least leave this top piece 100% intact. That way I can match these angles and all the dimensions of that piece. It should be fairly easy. It's just 4 bends, but we'll get into that after I start cutting it, probably tomorrow when we actually start making the tube front end. Oh, there's definitely no going back now. We have to get this tube front end done. Yeah, so I got a little overzealous over here cutting with the Sawzall. Went a little bit into the cross member. I was kind of dumb, didn't really pay attention to what I was doing. There's one little piece of metal and I ended up cutting into the cross member. Not a big deal, I can drop it down, weld it up, fix it, grind it smooth, it's not a big deal. I am going to square up all the edges. It was kind of just a rough cut with a little bit extra material, so now I'm going to go back, square them all up now that there's like no material in the way, and make sure that they're both symmetrical with each other. These are going to be completely plated, in case you were wondering, so we don't have to worry about like losing all that structural integrity that we had over here. All that's going to be plated, and that's what the tube front end is actually going to be bolted to, so we don't have to worry about all that being open or anything like that. All of it will be taken care of, and there'll be plenty of structural integrity and strength back into this front end when we're actually done. And the good thing is the way this car works, there's really nothing important up here other than the radiator, because everything, the engine gets completely bolted to that. It goes to the frame rails, which are perfectly intact still. So definitely nothing super structural is being damaged. The strut towers, I did get rid of a little bit of strength because of the fact that we cut into that sheet metal, but it's already tied into the cage and it's still going to be all tied in together once it's completely bolted together and all of it's welded. So it'll have plenty of strength when we're actually done, so don't worry about that. I got a decent design in my head and we'll see how well it actually comes out though. Well, I'm going to end this video out. I want to keep it in like segments, that way if you want to see a certain part of the build, you don't have to watch a 30-minute video just to see some part of the tube front end. So obviously we got to completely cut up. There's still a lot more work to do in trimming and cleaning up all that kind of stuff. And we'll do that later, probably tomorrow. I got to go get a whole bunch of stuff so that we can continue this on the weekend. And yeah, definitely a lot of work coming up. I'm really excited though. No more of the dirty work. It's going to be like the fun fab stuff. And it's been a while since I've done any. We'll see if I remember how to bend tubes and all that kind of stuff, all the math involved. And if I end up not wasting a whole bunch of material, because that'd be really nice because it's not that cheap. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and finally seeing the GC8 coming back to the channel and actually getting some work done on it. I'm super excited to continue this build and make this car a lot nicer and a lot more reliable than it currently is. So I'm definitely super happy with finally getting started on it and hope you guys are too. So with that, I will finally end this video and I'll see you guys with the next one, where hopefully we're plating the strut towers and cleaning up the frame rails and making a lot more progress on the actual tube part of the front end. So we'll see you guys then.